Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to take a static photograph and add movement. Some call this a Plotagraph, and this is not made like a cinemagraph where you take video footage and you freeze specific elements in it to kind of loop through and make it look like a different effect. In this case, we're going to take a photograph that's static and we're going to add different motion elements into the photograph and make it look more like video. Here's an example of what we're going to create with this tutorial. So today I'm going to be starting in Resolve 16, but this method works in both Davinci Resolve 16 and the new Davinci Resolve 17 version. It works in both Resolve Studio and the free version of Resolve. So I'm actually working in the free version today, so if you have that, it's going to work for you. And I'm going to be using an image from Unsplash, and check in the description for a link if you want to go ahead and download that. Take a look at the artist that took this photo and you can grab it and you can follow along with this tutorial. Okay, I'm starting in the edit page here, and if you need to get there, hit shift and the number 4 and you can get to the edit page, or you can hit this icon here at the bottom. So we are going to start with our image here. Go ahead and drag that on the timeline. Okay, you can see that this image is not 1080p. It's actually 1920 by 1440. So I want to do something about that. So let's go ahead and raise this up. It should be about 1.33. to fill that frame. Yep, that's pretty good. Now what I want to do, I want to go ahead and go to the Fusion page. So I'm going to say make this a new Fusion clip, and then we'll go to the Fusion page. Alright, so it's in that frame now, so just right click on that and say save image. We can save the EXR, that's fine. We'll go ahead and use it that way. Call it reference photo. Go ahead and go back to the edit page here. So basically I was just doing that to get it into a format so I don't have to deal with it. Let's go ahead and bring this EXR over. I could have saved it as a PNG, but the EXR is a little bit better. It saves the colors better. So I'm going to go ahead and close this Fusion clip here, and then I'll drag the EXR file right onto my timeline here. Okay, so now I don't have to worry about it. Everything is set 1:1. It's 1080p. You can see it's got the right dimensions there, just what I wanted to see. Let's go ahead and do some things with this. So what I want to do is I want to make this water move down, and to do that I'm going to have to get back in the Fusion page. Let's go ahead and right click on that and say open in Fusion page. Alright, so now we have our media. So it's basically just the media out, what we saw before. So what I want to do is mask out an area around this waterfall. And there's some ways to do this, but I'm going to do it a couple of ways in this example, and I'm going to show you both ways to do it. So this way I'm going to do it. I'm going to grab a background, and I'm going to grab a paint node. Go ahead and connect that in, and we're going to connect it into the media in here as a mask. So we want to make sure that the timeline is all the way at the start of the clip here at 0. That's very important. And then the stroke duration, we want to see that at, let's just jack it way up to about 240. So we're not going to have any issues if we stretch this. So we're automatically by default in the multi-stroke tool, and we can change it up here, but I'm going to go ahead and use the multi-stroke. So let's just pull this down a little bit. And so I've got my stroke duration pretty long there. I'm going to go ahead and set some my brush type up. So I'm going to use this softer brush here, and I'll bring the softness up quite a bit so it has some feathering at the edge. And I'm going to bring up the size as well too, quite a bit here. And you can do this with a mouse, or if you have a pad or a graphics tablet, you can do it with that as well. And so we can go ahead and start masking this off, and I'm going to show you what it's doing here. So let's go ahead and select the media in, and we'll select the paint over here so you can see what's drawing. And let's actually make a selection change here. We'll go ahead and go to the input here, and I want to make this selected by luminance, and we're going to invert it now because I want to make it disappear, and then I'll change that setting. So everything I select is going to kind of disappear into a transparency. And let me open that paint node again, select on that, and get to work here. And you'll see just a slight delay after your strokes, and that's pretty normal. but you can kind of see what's going on the side panel here. Alright, so let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller now. And bring the softness down just a little bit. I want to get this edge a little bit sharper here. Okay, I'll just grab the rest of this. And it's okay if this is not a perfect shape here. We can go ahead and do some additional things as we go. Alright. Okay, so now we have that falls kind of masked out. Let's go ahead and make a change here with the media in. And so I was applying an inverted mask, but now I'm applying it not inverted. And so now I'm just basically getting the water. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to see. So I can go back to the edit page now. And we're taking a look at our water here. I'm going to move this up to video level 2 here. And I will grab the original image and pull it down below it. And so we're not going to see any difference now because basically it's just sitting on top. So we got our water here and we got our original clip underneath. And what I want to do is make some changes here with this. So let's go ahead and go to the start of this clip here. And as far as this zoom goes, I'm going to break this connector here so I can do separate X and Y zoom values. And I'm going to go ahead and set a keyframe. So go ahead and click the diamond there. And so that's going to set my first keyframe. I'm going to go over here to about 4 seconds or so. And I'm going to set another keyframe. And this time I'm going to raise the Y up. And you can see that water is really going up in the air there. So that's not what I want to do, but for now it's good. Okay, so I can do it 2 ways. I can bring it back down either using the anchor point or I can use the positioning. So either way you want to do it. And I want to line that back up with the original again. So I'm just using my wheel to zoom in and out here on my window. And so you can see that's pretty good. So actually what I want to do is I want to come down just a little bit below, about right there. And I'm at 24 frames a second on this. You can do it at 30 or 60, whatever you want. You just have to do the math. So I'm going to go to about 1.5 seconds, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this back over and clip it there. So it's just going to be that short clip there. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit here. And then I'm going to make a copy of this. Go ahead and hold the Alt key down and just grab it with your left mouse button and pull it up. It'll make another copy. I'll right click. I'm going to add some tracks here. Let's move this audio down. And I'm going to go ahead and make another copy. Alt, left mouse button, and then slide it up. Okay, so now I have 3 clips here. So I want to go about half the distance now. So I want to go to 18 frames. And I'm going to slide the second one over to meet that. And I'm going to slide the third one over to kind of start on the end there. So I kind of have this build up. And I'm going to zoom out. You can see what it's doing here. So now I do have some movement, although it's really bad. So we're going to clean this up. So I want to make a cut at the end on this top clip here. And then I'm going to grab this piece and just slide it over to the start. And that's going to give me my loop. So that's a very important step to remember. And so now I have a better loop, but it's still just kind of bouncing up and down. So what I want to do next is I want to make some feathering here. So this first one, so there's a little button here at the top of each clip, and if you can't see it, make sure these clips are tall enough where you can kind of see these little markers here. And so I'm going to slide this over to about plus 0.05, 0.06, somewhere in there. And I'm going to do the same with some of these other ones here. This one I'm going to really make a bevel, about 15. This one same way. This one pretty big. I don't want one here or here because that's the matchup. If I dip it and come back up, that'll look weird. just have to kind of play with these. So you can see I have a little issue there. It's kind of bouncing up. Don't like that. So I do need one here. That's better. Okay, so that feathering, what it does is it just gives us a lot better transition. So let me go ahead and pull this over. Okay, so some of these places we just need to clean up, and just spend a few minutes cleaning those up. Those transitions, they should kind of fade away. You shouldn't see those jumps. And if you're seeing jumps, then you need to make an adjustment. Alright, that looks pretty good. So we have the main waterfall here, and you can see we've got a little bit of a problem. So you can see I'm moving down on top of these people here, and I'm going to clean that up at the end. So that's not really what we want to see. So we're going to need to make some additional layers here. But that's not too bad. That's a good start. So some of the other things that we probably want to animate, and I'm going to show you a different way of doing these. We got a little bit of mist here. We've got a lot of mist here. So I'm going to work on this portion of mist next. And then I'll do this little piece. And then I'll kind of describe the technique of getting some of this material up here moving if you want it. I don't think it's necessary. And then I'm going to show you how to reestablish kind of these foreground areas so we don't have these elements spilling over, bleeding into those, so we can keep our motion intact here. So what I want to do is I want another copy of this EXR. Alright, so go ahead and let's move it to the start of the clip, and I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say open in Fusion page. And we're going to do something similar here, but I'm going to show you a different method of kind of masking this off. This time I'm not going to use that paintbrush tool. I'm going to use a polygon, and we can plug this directly into the mask here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the media. I'm going to apply a mask, and then we can go here. Let's zoom this up a little bit. And in the Fusion page, to zoom using your wheel, you got to hold down the control button for Windows machine. Okay, so I want to capture kind of this mist here. I'm not going to grab this edge here, so just kind of all this here. So I've got my polygon, make sure it's selected. And this one we don't have to set kind of the clip length, it's just going to stay on there. So let's go ahead and grab some of this. And we'll have to make some adjustments. So let's kind of get some of this material here. And then close it. And then what we want to do is there's a feather here, or a soft edge. So we want to grab that. And so let's go ahead and go back to the media and change this. And so what you want to do now is you want to make sure you're not picking any of this stuff up. So we got some of these heads with the feather. And so we can move this kind of out of that range there. You can reduce the feather down a little bit too to get it out of there. That looks pretty good. But I like having that softness for sure. We got some of the rock here. You can kind of see it barely, just barely there. I've got too many points. I'm going to delete one. Another kind of some of the heads here again. Okay, it's looking pretty good. If you want to smooth some of these points, you can just grab them and hit Shift S. It'll smooth some of those out. All right, I think that's looking good enough for now. We can always come back and make more adjustments. Let's go ahead and look at the edit page again. Okay, so we got our clip down here, and I want to do some animation on this. So remember to go to the beginning of the track again. And so what we want to do is stretch this. I'm going to go ahead and deselect this connection here so I can independently change the X and Y. And I'm going to go ahead and set a keyframe. I'm going to go over here to the end and make that grow a bit. And then I'm going to need to move my anchor point up. which is actually down there, going up too much, just so the top kind of expands. All right, let's go and see what that looks like. All right, so I want to make 2 copies of this clip again, and then slide the second one over, slide the third one over, and then repeat the feathering again. So now that we've got the mist set, let's go ahead and group these. Just grab those, right click on them, and we're going to say new compound clip, and we're going to call this main mist. So this will keep everything in our timeline a little less cluttered. So that'll just be a single clip we can deal with. And if we want to go back and make any adjustments, just select it again, right click on it and say decompose in place. And then we get everything back that we can make adjustments with. I'll go ahead and undo that. All right, so now we can go ahead and put this on top of our other footage. And let's go ahead and take a quick look and see what it's looking like at this point. Okay, so you can see, if you look at this area here, you're gonna see that mist moving upwards. That's looking pretty good. The falls is looking pretty good. These clip lengths aren't the same, so we have that kind of that mist still moving up. But you can see even there, we get a nice moving at the top of this mist here. I think that's looking pretty good. Okay, so for the rest of this scene, you can see we have some additional secondary mist here. We have some mist up in these areas as well. And we've got a little bit of a problem here with kind of this mist or the waterfall overlapping on these people here. That's a little bit too much. So we're going to clean that up in just a second here. Let's go back to the composition. Okay, so I have my mist and then I have my waterfall. I'm going to go ahead and group the waterfall as well right here. And I'm going to call this Falls 1. All right, so now I only have to deal with these 3 items on our timeline. So like I said, we've got another issue here. I'm going to go ahead and add another bit of movement in this location. And then I'm going to show you some other ways to maybe make this mist in these places here. So let's go ahead and grab the EXR file. And I'm going to drag it over to the side here. And let's go ahead and open this in Fusion. Okay, we're in the Fusion page now. And I'm going to do the same thing as I did last time. I just want to focus in on this little piece right there. Creating the mist on the right side is repetitive. Just follow the same procedures as the main mist using a polygon tool to select the mist in the image. Next, I'll show you a different way of creating some moving water spray mist. This would also work to make moving clouds or other things like that. So we're going to add a Fusion composition to the timeline, right click on that clip and select Open in Fusion Page. So in the Fusion page, we're going to add a background node and a paint node. Let's connect the output of the background node into the input of the paint node. Then connect the paint node's output to the media out. Now select the background node. In the inspector, slide the opacity down to 0. Select the paint node, and to look at what's going on in this node, we're going to drag and drop it up into the viewing pane on the right side here. Let's change the stroke duration to 300 now. Go ahead and open up the brush controls. So I'm going to use this soft brush. So we're going to make the size a little bit bigger. I'm going to go ahead and key in 0.3. So I'm going to go ahead and bump up the softness up to about a little over 1.9. 2 is completely transparent, so I want to be pretty close to that so it's really fine detail. Let's make sure the timeline is set at 0. This is very important in this step. So we're going to paint some mist now on the screen. Just kind of move that around. So now I'm going to bring down the brush size a little bit, and I'm going to paint some finer details on here so it doesn't just look like one homogeneous mat on here. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go back to the edit page now. So with that Fusion clip selected, I'm going to go ahead and break the X and Y transform lock. I'm going to set keyframes on the zoom and also on the anchor point. I'll move the timeline to about 4 seconds now, and I'm going to stretch out the Y. quite a bit there, and I'm going to stretch the X just slightly. I'm going to move the anchor point down quite a bit here to get that movement of this material upward. I'm going to cut the clip now at 2 seconds, and I'll make 2 copies of the clip and stagger them like we did before. And now I'm going to feather these clips together so it kind of blends together and we get that movement. So make the adjustments until you're happy with it. And then we're going to select all those clips and right click on there and say make compound clip. And we're going to call this one side mist. So we need to just place it in our scene somewhere above the background. So anywhere above there in the stack. So if it looks like it's too much for you, too much mist, we can lower down the opacity to make it more transparent. Right here in Davinci Resolve 17, there's a new composite setting, so we can lower the opacity there. So that's just a different way of creating a moving effect of this mist that we painted on there. Just want to give you a little bit different look at that. So the last step now is to fix the spill on our foreground. To do that, we're going to need to mask out parts of the image that we want to keep clean. So let's go ahead and grab another copy of the original EXR file and drag it to the side so we can work with it. I'm going to right click on that file and I'm going to select Open in Fusion Page. So in the Fusion page, let's go ahead and add a polygon tool directly into the input of our media. To see what we're doing, we want to select the Media In node and then go to the Settings tab in the inspector and check Apply Mask Inverted. Go ahead and select the polygon tool now and slide the timeline all the way to 0. This is very important again. The reason it's important is because polygons can be animated in Fusion. So if we start one later, it's going to appear there. It's not going to start from the start. Or if we move these points around as we go through our timeline, they're going to animate. We don't want that to happen here. So let's go ahead and pick the points to select the line of what we want to keep. We need to close the loops with the selection points. Okay, so that took out what we really want to keep. So let's go back to the Media In page and uncheck Apply by Mask Inverted. Go back now and select the polygon tool and adjust the soft edge and the points as you need to. So once we're happy with it, we'll go back to the edit page. In the edit page, we're going to put the mask foreground clip all the way on the top of the timeline video tracks. Now we can make copies of each of these clips to extend the timeline out. We can get it out to about 8 seconds or so. And then once we're done with that, we can render this out. So here's what mine turned out to look like. So Davinci Resolve really provides a way to take a static photo and create movement in the photo just by applying these different techniques. So thanks for following along. Subscribe if you'd like to see more of these type of effects in Fusion or just learning how the different tools work. You can learn something on every different technique that I put out there. Thanks a lot for watching today. I appreciate you taking a look. Take care.